Ladies and gents, welcome back. Justin Trudeau today will be testifying at the inquiry into his use of the Emergencies Act on a peaceful protest in Ottawa back in February. Today I'll be watching it with you guys on the Warcampaign live. So if you guys want to tune in with me, I'll be in the chat there today. I will be working, but I'll be in and out in the chat there. But let's look into a little bit of what's been going on during this inquiry up so far. And this is the last day, and I know a lot of people want to tune into the last one when Trudeau's there. Here's Trudeau back in 2015 when he was running for office saying, "I'm voting for an open, honest, and transparent government." Well, what kind of transparency have we seen so far? Well, here's Minister Freeland's secret distributed blacklist of truckers and participated in the convoy. Well, this is something interesting that came up. A blacklist checked by Freeland. So she denied that this existed. And this thanks to Blacklock Reporter, one of the last remaining journalistic outfits in Canada. Truly amazing. Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland's office secretly distributed a blacklist of 201 trucking companies that participated in the Freedom Convoy. Records show staff included a blacklist of 45 firms that received the Canada Emergency Wage Subsidy. Please find attached an Excel sheet detailing which companies whose trucks are participating in the Ottawa convoy. This went out by Chrystia Freeland. Now, she denied that this was the case. Now, glad to see that we have a fair and open society here in Canada. Glad to see some transparency at the Emergencies Act inquiry. This is the kind of thing that we've been seeing so far. And as pointed out by the lawyers for the convoy and other lawyers involved in this case, is they're omitting parts of this. They're blacking out stuff unlawfully. A lot of the legalities that they're trying to use to say that they can blank out all this information actually falls short. But the problem is they dump the information at the last minute, so that the lawyers don't have time to file accordingly. Now, more things going on yesterday at the inquiry with Chrystia Freeland. Chrystia Freeland gave a greater good argument when asked about freezing the accounts of people with children who may go without food and heat, as well as elderly people who need medication. She just said, "Oh no, this is for the greater good," and this is it was a non-violent action to go after these individuals, of which there was 200 some odd people who had their bank accounts frozen. And as we heard from Tom Marazzo, they weren't warned about it. It wasn't a deterrent. They were just frozen without warning, and then not frozen until the Emergencies Act was revoked. So it wasn't as she had claimed that they were revoked. That they got their accounts back as soon as they left Ottawa. That was not true. Now we have here from Brian Lilly, the Canadian Civil Liberties Association rightly points out that the economic harm is not a legal grounds for invoking the Emergencies Act, which because it fell short, the Emergencies Act is very clear in what can be used to invoke the Emergencies Act. It has to be an emergency national in scope. So it means it has to go across the country, and it also has to follow the CSIS guidelines. It has to go, things like espionage, terrorism, the things. I know people are calling the Freedom Convoy participants terrorists, but rhetoric doesn't count. There's a legal definition that has to be upheld here. So CCLA reacts to Minister Freeland's testimony. Today, Minister Freeland agreed that the protests and civil disobedience are fundamental tenets to a healthy democracy. She also agreed that in some instances, these acts of protest, whether at home or abroad, can cause significant economic harm. That's just kind of par for the course. We see this with strikes. Workers' union strikes, they cause disruptions to people's lives. This is the thing. It's okay for some causes, but not for others. The CCLA has said all along that economic harm is not grounds for the invocation of the Emergencies Act. The Emergencies Act and the CSIS Act do not contemplate economic harm as a national emergency. With just 1 day of testimony left, the government is running out of time to prove it met the high burden of invoking the Emergencies Act. The CCLA will question Prime Minister Justin Trudeau tomorrow, which is today. Just actually probably right after you watch this video, he'll be on there. Now, moving on, just to get through this video here, Chrystia Freeland emotionally testified to a comment from a U.S. investor that he said he would not invest in a banana republic like Canada. Now, she got choked up. I didn't know she had emotions. I wasn't aware that this was a thing. She was very unemotional when it came to canceling her Disney account. That was the thing. Maybe her kids were emotional, but anyway, she responded by freezing the assets of her political enemies. So we're not a banana republic. Hold my beer, she says. Basically, you think we're a banana republic? Just wait. And so that's I mean, that's the definition of a banana republic, is when you go after a government that, when in power, will go after their political enemies using, powers beyond, like extrajudicial powers, punishing their political enemies, not even just sending them to court where the courts will rule that it is unruly. Keith Wilson taking to Twitter to say, hey, Chrystia Freeland, obvious question. Given the importance of cross-border trade, why did you impose a trucker vax mandate in January of 2022 after this is all pretty well over? Like this, if you look back at the timeline, the height of the pandemic was over by this point. This was at the end of the pandemic that they imposed the ArriveCan app, which was the trigger for the convoy and why it started going. Now, a little bit from Brendan Miller as he examined, sorry, I think is the word, Chrystia Freeland for the purposes of getting to the truth, but well, we'll see how far we get with that. But anyway, this was the question about the vaccines and the timing of it.
In encouraging as many Canadians as possible to get vaccinated.
But so the purpose was to encourage Canadians to get vaccinated, to compel them to get vaccinated. Is that fair?
That's right.
All right. So that was the purpose of the regulation. That was the true purpose. It wasn't time, so I'm going to cut you off there.
So yeah, just getting right to the truth there. So what they were trying to, what the government was trying to tell people was, no, this was just for your safety. This was other reasons. No, the whole purpose was to compel people to get a vaccine. Now, I hope we're not missing part of that
clip. I'm going to cut you off there. And you'd agree with me that given that there was no regulation in place from March 2020 through January 15th, 2022, during the throes of the pandemic, there was no reason to pass one on January 15th, 2022, was there? There was no health risk.
No, I'm afraid I don't agree. In January, we had an Omicron wave. We were still fighting COVID, and there was a real value in encouraging as many Canadians as possible to get vaccinated.
But so the purpose was to encourage Canadians to get vaccinated, to compel them to get vaccinated. Is that fair?
That's right.
Right. So, and I think even Bill Gates would disagree with her here, as Bill Gates stated that, we can hear from him.
Where would you assess where we are today in beating COVID-19?
Well, sadly, the virus itself, particularly the variant called Omicron, is a type of vaccine. That is, it creates both B cell and T cell immunity. And it's done a better job of getting out to the world population than we have with vaccines. If you do...
Right. So Bill Gates even disagreeing with Chrystia Freeland here on the, I'm not going to, I don't know, in terms of service, it's still on YouTube, so I'm going to stay away from that one. But Bill Gates definitely disagreeing with Chrystia Freeland on the approach there and, the safety of it. Anyway, Freedom Corp, Brendan Miller asked if people put an LGBT flag on Terry Fox statue if she would consider that desecration. And here's the clip here.
I do remember the Terry Fox statue. I remember discussing it with my children.
Yeah,
who were very upset.
Yeah, and there was, and that Terry Fox statue, they put a hat on Terry Fox's head and then put a flag in his arm. And then there was a mandate freedom sign on it.
I don't remember specifically how the Terry Fox statue was implicated in this, but I do remember reading about it, and I remember it specifically because my children were aware of it and were upset.
Right, and so I went online and I just looked at how many times someone's done that to that statue, and it seems to be hundreds. So I'm just going to put this one to you. If someone puts an LGBTQ flag on the Terry Fox statute and flowers in the statute, is that a desecration?
I am not going to go into, I really don't think it's my job or helpful for Canadians for me to go into a discussion of what is okay and not okay.
But you've said it was a desecration. When you've called it a desecration in public, that was what you're referring to based on what was put on the statute. So is it fair to say that it's only a desecration to you if you don't agree with the message?
Again, you've made a couple of leaps beyond anything that I've said.
That's okay. It's the public record.
That's okay. It's for the public record. So she doesn't have to admit to it. It's still out there. Now, one last clip from Brendan Miller at the end of his cross here, and talking about the defamation of Canadians at a protest
as well.
Okay. Can you agree with me if, anytime it comes out that the Canadian government has misled Canadians on something, it really hurts our international reputation, doesn't it?
I think that the Canadian government should always seek not to mislead Canadians.
Right.
First and foremost, because that's wrong, and that is not the way we should treat Canadians.
And in the many statements that have been said by all the politicians in this matter, one of the main things they talked about, and Justin Trudeau did particularly on the following the first weekend of the invocation of the Emergencies Act, was these horrible, the Nazi flag and all those things that people saw in Ottawa. You heard him say that?
Again, I have to say, prior to coming here, I have not specifically reviewed specific statements of the Prime Minister. If you want to point to a specific one, maybe we could discuss it.
You'd agree if it turned out those flags were linked to your government. That would look really bad for our international reputation, wouldn't it?
Based on some...
Okay, next, if I could call.
Hoof, indeed. If it was linked to their government, it would be an embarrassment for Canadians around the world, and it would lend to a lot of mistrust of what our government is actually doing, and how if they behave this way to their own citizenry, well, how are they going to behave to people of other countries? And well, I'm just going to leave it there. Leave a comment in the comment section down below. Let me know what you think of this second last day, the penultimate day of testimonies. And we're about to go on to the ultimate day, the final day with Justin Trudeau. And then we're going to hear from Canadian citizens who spoke out. And then there's going to be obviously the final statements from every party of standing in the inquiry. Anyway, leave a comment in the comment section down below. Let me know what you think. So hit that subscribe button if this is your first time, or if you've watched a few of these videos and you haven't yet. Let today be the day you consider subscribing. Anyway, we'll see you in the next one. Oh, and we're live tonight. We're going to be commenting about what we saw today with Justin Trudeau live tonight. And, well, join us at 9:30 Eastern time right here on this channel. See you then. Keep on trucking.